Today we are in Natural Bridges National Monument. It's not a national park, but don't let that fool you because it has some awesome views here.
Welcome back to Adventures in Aviators, guys. Today we are talking about Natural Bridges National Monument in southeast Utah. It's really close to absolutely nothing. It is out in the middle of nowhere. It's even a little bit further than Canyonland's Needles District, which of course you might have seen our video about that. Speaking of, if you have not liked our channel yet, please go ahead and do that below, subscribe, do all the things. We want to help share our awesome adventures with you so that you can take awesome adventures as well. So as many of you know, Utah is home to some of the most amazing national parks in the country, and this can be done as part of a tour starting on either side. They've got 5 national parks all in the southern part of the state, and then smashed in the middle there is Natural Bridges National Monument, and it is heavily overlooked. It is an amazing spot, and that's why we wanted to talk about it today. It's very different than even places like arches, where those arches are going to be formed through wind and snow erosion. But then, of course, you're going to have rivers, the river that winds through Natural Bridges National Monument to create these massive natural bridges. So as a national monument, Natural Bridges does have a entrance fee. It's $15 for a private vehicle. They also do have 13 campsites for you to choose from. So as you can see, they have a one-way loop road that goes for 9 miles and takes you to all of the various lookouts and hikes down into the canyon as a part of this park. So this makes it accessible to people who just want to drive to each spot and look down. Of course, your views are going to be significantly different if you can hike down into the canyon as opposed to just looking down from the rim. What makes this park really neat is that while it is going to be one-way hiking in the canyon, you can enter and exit at various points within the canyon if you make it all the way through to the different arches. And then they have connecting trails up top that wind and connect the different places that you can leave your car. So if you want to leave your car at one arch, hike above the canyon to another place and go down into the canyon there, then you can hike in the canyon and emerge at a different place. And so it really makes it a great place for hiking, even though it's a canyon that really doesn't warrant its two-way hikes. So you don't have to do an out and back. You can do a loop trail as part of this park, and that is awesome. So while the upper portion might not be quite as scenic as the canyon, there are well-marked paths, and you want to stay on those paths as you go to and from the different canyon overlooks, because there's something called crypto, and we learned about this here. It is kind of this black tinted ground, and it has clumps, and what it is it keeps the topsoil attached to the ground so it doesn't blow off when there's winds, and it really helps to allow for all the various vegetation to grow there because it keeps that topsoil around. And if we step on it, it actually destroys it, and it takes actually decades for it to grow. So make sure you stay on the path as you make your way from the various points and the different overlooks. So the park has 3 main natural bridges: Sipapu, Kachina, and Owachomo. And that's where you're going to park your car. Those are 3 very different bridges with 3 different descents down into the canyon. Sipapu is 500 feet down, Kachina is 400, and then Owachomo is 180 feet. So that can vary greatly depending on what your physical health is. If you want to try to descend down into the canyon, of course, what makes the overlooks great is that people of all abilities can enjoy this park and these monuments. We decided to park our car at the Kachina Bridge and then take the connecting trails up top to the Sipapu Bridge. From Sipapu Bridge, we hiked in the canyon back to Kachina and to our car up at the top. Now you can see that the descent down is quite steep. Even has some ladders that are made out of driftwood that you would, they fancied together, and you make your way down that way. So not for the faint of heart. So I will say that Sipapu Bridge, where we went down into the canyon, is probably the most scenic, or not scenic maybe, but picturesque of the different bridges. As you go down, you can just see some of the spots where you can pause and take pictures, and hopefully you got a pretty day with a blue sky behind it, and it's really striking. Not to say that it's any more impressive than the other ones, those are just harder to photograph in such a way. And so we did enjoy the opportunity to kind of photograph that particular bridge from different vantage points as we went down. Now the actual trail proper is not much of a trail. It is not maintained, and they're very clear about that, but it's easy to follow. But here's what happens is every now and again, rains flood through the area and really can obscure the path and make just kind of life a little bit more difficult. And so you can see that. Just know that, pants aren't necessarily the worst choice if it's not in the middle of summer. You'll be brushing up against different kinds of foliage and reeds and things like that. So just be ready for that. It is very hot down at the bottom, much warmer than it is up at the top. And so make sure to have your sunscreen as well as just tons of water. We barely had enough water for us the whole time. We both agreed that we should have taken more just because you weren't prepared for the extra heat down at the bottom. It was really unique. I mean, it changes quite a bit once you get into some shady parts of the canyon versus the sunny parts of the canyon. We were there close to midday, and so the sun was coming down most of the time, which made it really pretty. It made the colors nice. It made our pictures pretty as well. And sometimes in canyons, midday is actually the best time to be there. And normally we say go in the morning because you'll beat the crowds. There's not going to be a lot of crowds here. So kind of go whenever you want to go. Midday was fine, but again, the heat is a consideration as you're hiking through the bottom of the canyon. It does twist and turn for quite a while. There are a couple of different places where you can find some Native American ruins. They don't advertise them all very well. They want to keep those intact and safe and preserved. But if you keep your eyes open, you can find a couple of those spots. I think there is one that's listed on the map. But the hike is simple. There is one area where the canyon branches off to the right, and you want to keep going straight. So do kind of keep an eye out for the path at that point and know where you're going. But otherwise, you are in a canyon, so it's not too easy to get lost. So how high do floodwaters get when it does rain in here? Well, that wood got here somehow. It is really cool though, as you see a couple areas where the evidence of these seasonal floods is quite evident. And it's a little humbling then when you think about the canyon and how it's got there in the first place, and then to see that those events still happen. So always be mindful of the weather in the area, just so that you don't get caught up in a dangerous situation. Of course, the park is going to take necessary precautions as well, but always just be mindful when you're going out on hikes about what's going on in the area. Now, as you can see here, this is 30-something Jason making a better choice to not do something that 20-something Jason would have done in a heartbeat, which is to hop over this gap here. Again, you are in the middle of nowhere, and so to say that emergency facilities are nowhere nearby is an understatement at the least. So be smart, of course, and don't do anything that would make your mom disappointed in you, right? So to do this hike was a really fun opportunity to get down into a very steep canyon and to see then, of course, these natural bridges that are just extraordinary. They're huge. They do look quite a bit different than some of the arches that you'll see over at Arches National Park, in that their mass at the top is just so much greater, and because it's been worn away from the bottom as opposed to kind of all around it. And that was really impressive to me, and hard to photograph sometimes, but really, really neat to see, and makes this park unique on its own and very special to enjoy. So wherever you decide to come back out of the canyon, of course, you've got a bit of a hike ahead of you, but as with any hike, man, the views just change along the way. Don't forget to look behind you as you're coming back up and enjoy the views from wherever you are. What a unique spot, and actually even still looks different than much of the rest of Utah. So well worth the stop, especially if you're doing the drive between all the different parks. It's well worth a stop, half a day at least. You could easily spend 2 days here and explore different aspects of it. I think it would be a super fun place to go camping and use one of the campsites there. We highly recommend this as a stop along your travels in Southeast Utah for sure. Again, this could easily be a national park if it were located probably somewhere else, but they didn't want to throw all the love to Utah, I guess. But we really enjoyed sharing this park with you. I hope you go check it out in the near future. If you have, of course, any insights or things that you want to add, please put those below in the comments. We want everyone to enjoy their time at Natural Bridges National Monument, and we will see you next time.